You know, a lot of us watch these game trailers and reveals at these conferences or whatnot, and we decide in an instant whether or not we're interested in playing that game. And over the course of that game actually being announced and us discovering it, to the point where the game is actually released, you know, we find out new information, and this could either morph our opinion to become something that is in more favor of us actually wanting to play it, so we grow more excited, or it could change it to something more drastic, and on the other side of the spectrum, we actually decide against playing the game. And so I sort of wanted to discuss today, what are the triggers that you find that basically pique your interest when it comes to a game? Does it come from storytelling or like the setting of the game? Does it stem from just gameplay oriented? I'll play anything about anything as long as it's something that I'm interested in playing. Or is it something that kind of goes beyond that, where it's like, okay, it has to look the part, it has to be pretty, it has to sound good, you know? I want something that's like a technical showcase. That's really what I'm interested in playing. So what is it for you guys? And I wanted to discuss in this video sort of my point this generation that I made to want to play everything, and sort of what I learned trying to do that, where you literally have a backlog of games that date back a year. You know, I'm still going through my 2018 backlog, and here we are in October of 2019. The year is almost over and I'm a year behind. I haven't played any games that released this year. And, you know, I think I learned a very important lesson. And I also want to give special props to the people who watched my collecting in excess video, because they really gave some very insightful points. And next generation, I realized that instead of making a point to try and play everything, because the God's honest truth is, and take it from someone who actually has done that, not everything is worth playing. Despite it looking interesting, despite it being pretty, despite it having a setting that you may like, not everything is worth playing. There's a lot of shit out there, and a lot of, you know, just sort of been there, done that type of experiences that don't do anything special, that don't try to progress the medium, that aren't interesting, and are just there to sort of cash in and keep cashing in from you, the player. And I realize, you know, there's a lot of games this generation, and I think a lot of it comes from like the Ubisoft type games that are built on the monetization factor of, hey, you play the game, we're going to update the game for you, and you know, you're going to want to keep spending money on this game, and it's going to be something that you're going to be playing for years on end. And you know, I appreciate that to some respect. I appreciate, hey, giving you more content and actually supporting the game and whatnot. But the simple fact of the matter is that I haven't bought DLC in so long. I think the last DLC I bought was the Witcher 3 Blood and Wine DLC, which wasn't even like a DLC. That was like another game, you know? It was so much content. But you know, I myself, you know, I'm not interested in playing the same game for years on end. I did that when I was a kid. I did that when I had no other choice, and I had to play, you know, I had to play the games I had because I didn't have any money coming in. I had to rely on my parents to purchase the games I wanted, right? So I had to sit there and I had to play Uncharted Drake's Fortune 10 times, you know, and wait until games actually came out. And you know, again, this was right when like online gaming was starting to become, you know, somewhat really popular. You know, it become much more accessible for everybody. So, you know, it was a very interesting time. It's just something I learned this generation in particular, and through the help of the insightful people who commented in that video I did on collecting in excess. Next generation, I'm going to make a point to just play things that I'm interested in playing, because to be quite honest with you guys, I felt like this generation, I almost had to prove something to not only you guys, but to myself. I felt like I had to prove something to you guys, because it was like, all right, now because I'm making money and I'm doing YouTube still, now I can really cover all the latest and greatest games, and you know, I want people to take me seriously, so I want to make sure I play all the games that, you know, they're gonna want me to play, like all the games that people will be interested in playing, all the big popular ones and whatnot. And what I realized is that there's a big majority of games that again, I was not super interested in, that I did give a chance to. And again, it kind of turned out like, I could have skipped this, to be quite honest, you know. And so I was also feeling like I had to prove something to myself because I, again, missed out on the bulk of games that released last generation because I was a kid. I was growing up, right? And so I felt like I almost had to make up for that with just generation. Oh, just play everything that you want to play and spend all your money and just, do this and do that. And I think, I had to kind of go through that phase and get it out of my system. And next generation, I'm kind of looking forward to being more, some people may call it casualized, but I think that's a part of just maturing, playing something not just for the sake of, oh, it's a third-person shooter. I like third-person shooters. I'm going to play it because it's a third-person shooter, but play it because, hey, I'm really interested in playing this game. It really seems interesting, and it's something that I really am excited about. And so I wanted to talk to you guys about those triggers, because we all have different interests, but what is it that you look for in a game trailer that actually triggers that sort of decision to actually play a game? For me, it has to be something that is familiar or not typically as you may think, okay, in terms of a story or setting or anything like that. But for me, it's like gameplay. I made a point this generation to play pretty much everything. And what I did is I basically looked at games and I said to myself, all right, it's a third-person shooter, it's a first-person shooter, it's an RPG. I played these before, I've enjoyed them, so I'm going to try out this one. And it was kind of stupid because, I'll be honest with you guys, there's a lot of games that released this generation, a lot of games that were quite disappointing and were not worth playing. This generation has just been, in my opinion, the worst generation that I've ever taken part in terms of games. But that's a separate video that I definitely want to make. I'm just waiting for more time to pass, and we still have this generation still has some life in it, right? Although we're getting there. But that's basically what drove those decisions. I looked at these games that were coming out, and if they looked familiar, if it looked like something I really liked playing before, I gave it a chance. And I even went so far as to try these multiplayer only looter shooter type games like Destiny or The Division, or even more recently Anthem, which are games that I normally wouldn't be interested in, but because they made them accessible, because it's a genre that I'm familiar with, I felt the need to actually want to play these games. And to be quite honest with you, none of those games, and I'm not trying to knock anyone who's interested in playing these games. If you are, then you are, and no one can take that away from you. But for me, it's like me deciding to play something like Destiny or Anthem or The Division is stupid because those games aren't made for me. They're not made for the type of person like me who likes story-driven games, who wants an experience and is really passionate about those single-player type of games that convey a really emotional story. That's not what those games are trying to do. They're there to basically get you addicted to their their gameplay and their loot system, and also get you to socialize and play with your friends, so you become even more addicted and you play even longer, and they can sell you things down the road. Like, that's what those games are created for, right? A lot of it is driven by the monetization of those type of IPs. And I made a point to play those games. And yeah, I will say that out of those games, The Division 2 was actually a really fun game. I had a lot of fun playing that by myself. But again, it's something that I probably would have not played. And would I say it's something that's worth playing this generation? No, it's not. None of those games I just mentioned are. They're not about that. They're not trying to do something wholly unique. They're trying to get you addicted and they get you to keep on playing the game for years down the road. That's the purpose of what they're trying to do. And I realized that I kept doing that, and that's a mistake that I made. And I'm really looking forward to next generation having a clean slate and just going in there and kind of picking and choosing and being more making decisions that make more sense to me, and playing games that I'm really interested in playing. And yeah, some of them may turn out to be terrible, yeah, there might be some games that are actually kind of crappy, and it is something I'm interested in and they are disappointing. I can't help it. I'm not in control of making these games and making these changes. If a game comes out and it's disappointing, unfortunately, that's just the nature of the game, and you got to accept that. again, there's nothing you can really do about it, but when it comes to right now in this current state of mind, when it comes to a game that I'm actually interested in playing, I'll be honest with you guys, I just look for the familiarity of gameplay. If it's something that I've had experience with and I've had fun playing before, I will always give it a shot. And it's something I really look forward to changing this coming generation, is just changing my perspective on things like that. And so for you guys, what is it that drives those decisions? Does it come from something of, oh, it has an interesting story, so I'm going to play it because of that? Or is it like, hey, it looks interesting to play and it looks unique, I'm going to play it based off of that? Or is it something like, hey, the graphics in this game are pretty fucking amazing, I'm going to play it because of that? And just let me know what you guys think in general, and also let me know if this coming generation, are you guys going to make any changes in terms of the structure of how you decide what games to play? Or is it something that, maybe you've always done? You've always felt comfortable with, hey, I'm just going to play whatever I'm going to play, and then that's pretty much it. Because that's really what it should be about. I think because I'm doing YouTube and because, in part, some of you guys consider me somewhat of an influencer, I feel a social responsibility to play games for other people and to give my opinions on games that I normally wouldn't be interested in playing. And that's something that I need to stop doing, because to be honest, that type of behavior is what ends up destroying the passion, and you don't do it for love anymore. Now it feels like a chore, and I don't want that to happen with games. I don't want my love for games to disappear because I felt like I had to play these games and experience them and give my opinions for people, for other people. And again, those games are not made for the type of person like I am. Those games are not made for a person who wants story-driven, single-player experiences that are unique and fun to play, and really do, leave an impression on you guys. I'm just going to make more of a point to recognize that and to not do that this coming generation. So thank you all so much for watching. I appreciate it, and looking forward to hear all your responses when it comes to this. Thanks.